A very good day to you. I hope you're having yourself an amazing day if you're watching or listening from abroad. And I hope you had an amazing day if you're watching or listening from Kenya. It is 2 minutes past 7 p.m., 1902 East African time. And this is the Black Hot Fire News Update with me, Dimore. I'll be taking you through what has been happening throughout the whole of Africa, from Ghana to Burkina Faso to Haiti to Gambia to Senegal. We're going to be looking at what has been happening throughout the whole of Africa today and what was hitting the headlines today. I hope you had an amazing day if you're watching from Kenya, and I hope your day is amazing if you're watching from abroad. And let us start with Kenya, where reports are indicating that the government only spent 70 billion Kenya shillings on development from the Kenya shillings 783 billion budget. So that is less than 10% of the national budget was the one that was spent on development. The government spent only 70 billion Kenya shillings on development in the first half of 2023-2024 financial year. That is according to the controller of budget. Her name is Margaret Nyakango. This is against the 783 billion Kenya shillings development budget for the financial year, showing just how starved development has been in the period. Speaking while appearing before the Finance and Planning Committee on Thursday, Controller of Budget Dr. Margaret Nyakango said the expenditure was illegal as at least 35% should be spent on development. So the law says that at least 35% of the national development budget should be spent on development. However, in the 2023-2024 financial year, the government of Kenya spent less than 10% of its development budget on development. So it was money meant for development, but less than 10% was the one. 70 billion Kenya shillings was the only amount that was spent in the actual development. The government also received a further 127 billion Kenya shillings from development partners. By development partners, I mean the IMF, the Bretton Woods institutions are the one that gave the government a further 127 billion, making the total expenditure on development 197 billion. Dr. Nyakango told the committee that huge amounts continue to be set aside on the recurrent budget, with the government having spent 561 billion Kenya shillings to pay for various expenses, including salaries of employees in the same period. She said, and I quote, "The total exchequer to ministers, ministries, departments, and agencies for the period was Kenya shillings 731 billion. That was 34.7% of the total budget. This comprises about 70.41 billion for development, that represent less than 10% of the revised net development estimates. So, in short, the country spent less than 10% of its net development, money meant for development, on development. The government heavily spent on travel, using upon up to 11.38 billion Kenya shillings on travels. 11.38 billion Kenya shillings was spent on travel, while a further 8.11 billion Kenya shillings was spent on travel for the last financial year. This just shows how serious we are as a country. We are a very serious country, with spending less than 10% on development, and 11.38 billion plus 8.11 billion, that is about 20 billion Kenya shillings on travel in the past 2 years. Nyakango said, and I quote, "This comprised of Kenya shillings 7.6 billion on domestic travel." So 7.6 billion Kenya shillings was spent on domestic travel, that is travel within the country, and 3.71 billion Kenya shillings was spent on foreign travel. Hospitality was at 2.9 billion Kenya shillings during the period. So we spent 3 billion Kenya shillings, that is 2.9 billion Kenya shillings on hospitality, 7.6 billion on domestic travel, and 3.71 billion on foreign travel. So other expenses that were used, 8 majority part of the budget include shipping and maritime affairs, culture and heritage, mining, and other many ministries. So that was 10% of the national budget being used on development. No wonder we are going to remain to be a developing country, because if you're using less than 10% of your total budget on development and more than 20 billion Kenya shillings on travels, 3 billion Kenya shillings on hospitality, and by hospitality that is for the leaders who are coming in, hosting the leaders who are gonna come in, that is what hospitality means. Anyway, let us head out of Kenya with its theatrics and dramas and head to Ghana, where Ghana's Deputy Finance Minister John Kuma died today. Sources close to the family of the 45-year-old lawmaker confirmed the news to a private media house on Thursday, March 7th. He's reported to have died in the early hours of Thursday in Germany, where he had been receiving medical treatment for some time now. There was no additional information on the circumstances of his death. Kuma was elected as a member of parliament for the Ejisu constituency in the 2020 general election in Ghana under the New Patriotic Party (NPP). He was then appointed the Deputy Minister of Finance in April 2021. And this is Ghana's Deputy Finance Minister. The Finance Minister of Ghana was fired a few weeks ago, and Ghana is going through a tough economics period, with the IMF having given them a bailout a few months ago, and the president went ahead and fired the minister, and now the deputy minister is dead. He died in Germany receiving treatment. The family did not give additional information on the circumstances of his death. All they said was that he died the early hours of Thursday in Germany, where he had been receiving medical treatment for some times now. So that is Ghana. And let us now head to another part of Africa, where a report is indicating that at least 8,500 migrants died on land and sea routes worldwide last year, the most in a decade. And most of these migrants were from Africa, and they were from Tunisia. From that Tunisian area where hundreds and tens of migrants die every week as they try to cross over to Spain, despite knowing the risks that come with it, despite knowing that the chances of them making to the other side are very, very shallow, despite them remembering what happened with the Melilla massacre, where Spain police and Moroccan police killed, beat to death, shot dead, and trampled so many Africans who had managed to climb over the fence and jump into the other side of the Melilla, that is an island near Spain. So despite knowing all that, these Africans still take the risks, and they try to jump over, and they try to leave Africa and go to Europe. So at least 8,565 migrants died on land and sea routes worldwide last year, the highest number since the UN Migration Agency began counting deaths a decade ago. The biggest increase was on the Mediterranean Sea, crossing to 3,000 people in 2022. So in total there were 8,565 migrants who died on.
Good afternoon, there, Demore. Let me ask you a question.
Good evening, Keith.
Yeah, it's still a morning for me, so good afternoon to you. Let me
Mm-hmm.
ask you a question. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
why did the Ghanaian minister have to go get treatment in Germany? Why can't none of these Negroes ever get treatment in Africa? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm just asking for a friend, Demore.
Mm-hmm. Of course, it is because they have stolen all the money meant for hospitals.
Yeah,
So they know there are not drugs in African hospitals, and now they have to go to Germany or India. That is where
yeah,
they
but
all
they
die.
get, yeah,
Germany
but
or
they,
India.
but they get to go. But the average man and woman in Africa don't. African man and women can't. We can't afford none of that. It's like I don't care if his bootlicking ass died. Good riddance to bad rubbish. But the fact that all these African puppets, they get to go to their little, go away and, you know, but they never have to stay in Africa and suffer the consequences for them not ever building shit in Africa
And
for the regular man and woman.
and do you know the irony of this story, Keith? So Ghana is apparently going through a tough financial time with them defaulting on their loans, not because they wanted, but because they don't have any money. And one of the
No,
reasons why Ghana
no,
is going,
Demore, no, Demore, you
they,
don't say no.
they
Come
don't
on,
have, they don't have
that
money.
can't be. That can't be true, Demore. An African
It
country
is true.
going through hard times, Demore. That can't be
Yeah.
true. Okay.
Ghana Ghana defaulted on its loans because it didn't have any money. And do you know what the irony of the whole of this is? So apparently, the president had decided to build 100 hospitals, 101 to be specific, and it later
How
came
many?
out to be
How,
one of the
how,
biggest corruption scandals in Ghana. There are
how many has
101
how many has he built? Has he even built one, Demore? At least one.
so so that was, he called it the Agenda 111, where he said he's going to build 101 hospitals, and so money was allocated for it. A lot of money, a majority of the budget was allocated towards the building of the hospitals, and the hospitals were never built, and the money was never found, and now Ghana can't even pay for nothing.
The
And now,
hospital was never built and the money was never found. My,
yeah.
please. Wow. Come on, Demar. Surely you're pulling my leg.
I can you can actually Google on the story. It is true. It was called the Agenda 111, where he had said as part of his development agenda, he's gonna build 101 hospitals. And if he had built 101 hospitals, then the minister would have died in Ghana.
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah.
course. You can subtract 101 from 101. That's how many he built.
uh, and let us assume he left the 101 hospitals and decided to go to Germany, and now he's dead. And now Ghana does not have a finance minister nor a deputy finance minister. The finance minister was fired a week ago, 2 weeks ago, by the president because the president said he was the one responsible for Ghana's economic woes. So right now they don't have a minister nor a deputy minister. So I was talking about the people dying, the 8,000.
And you know what else they don't have? They don't have no
Mhm.
damn hospitals.
I was talking about the 8,500 migrants who died last year trying to cross over the sea, headed for Europe from Africa, especially in Tunisia, despite knowing the risks that come with it. Anyway, let us now head to Burkina Faso, where Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have agreed to form a joint force to fight the jihadist insurgents in West Africa. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso will form a joint force to meet the country's defense and security goals. The announcement was made yesterday following the first official meeting of the three nations' military chiefs in Niamey. The head of Niger's army, General Musa Salau Bounao, said the new task force would be operational as soon as possible, but did not give further details on the size or remit of the force. So that is the Sahel Alliance forming a joint military force. So uh, the General Barmao, who is in charge of the Niger army, said that the jihadist threat was being dealt with, was coming up with a new impulse, and therefore needed to be dealt with as a unit. So they decided that they're not going to deal with the jihadists, the terrorist groups individually, and they're going to deal with them as a unit, and therefore they formed the so-called Sahel. The three countries formed a military group to help them fight that.
Niger and Burkina Faso will form a joint force to meet the country's defense and security goals. The announcement was made Wednesday following the first official meeting of the three nations' military chiefs of staff in Niamey. The head of Niger's army, General Musa Salau Bahamu, said the new task force would be operational as soon as possible, but did not provide further details on the size of the force. In September, the countries signed a mutual defense pact establishing the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES. The Niger press agency reported Wednesday that AES chiefs of staff took stock of the deteriorating security situation in their countries. General Barmo, however, said the jihadist threat was being brought under control with a new impulse observed in the context of ongoing operations. The Sahel region accounted for more deaths from terrorism in 2022 than South Asia and the MENA regions combined, the 2023 Global Terrorism Index found.
So that is good news coming from the Sahel Alliance, with them forming a joint military group. And Kay Williams is asking what's going on, people, and we are just looking at what has been happening throughout Africa today. And he's saying we have nothing but sellout in the black community globally. And he goes on to say no other race on the planet Earth go through what we go through. And he
globally,
says the Chinese have
globally, because
the Chinese have a hospital. Yeah. He said the Chinese have a
globally,
hospital in Nigeria where only the Chinese can go to.
of course, because
Wow, I never knew.
only Africans accept shit like that. K. Williams. There's not enough Demores, Joby, cameras on the thing, so they know they know they're unaccountable. They know that people don't know shit. Like Joby said, you got Africans believe, oh, that's politics is not for us. Politics is. That's why you have a hospital, moron. You don't know nothing. That's why. That's why. So there's not enough Demores and Joby's on the continent. That's why they keep. There's no accountability. These puppet ass Negroes know they can steal with impunity. They know nothing gonna happen to them. Money and that's how you see the same behavior in all African countries. I don't care if you're in Kenya, Ghana, damn, not just the same shit. They know that people are ignorant, and they know they can constantly keep stealing, and no consequences usually ever come from it. So it's a slap on the wrist, especially if they put that tribal shit in it too. Oh, he's part of my tribe, so what? Like what? He stole all the goddamn money. But yeah, he was part of my tribe, and he was the president. What? What? Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was the president. Didn't make a difference. He stole all our shit and didn't do shit. he was part of my tribe. Go ahead, tomorrow.
And I'm taking on what Kay Williams was saying, and it is true. There is a hospital in Nigeria that only treats.
Tomorrow, only the African allows punk ass shit like this. No other race of people allows nothing like this, Demore. And they know that people too ignorant to even know what's going on with them doing that. Chinese will come and say, "This is what we're gonna do. We don't want none of you niggas in here, and we're gonna make a top of the art hospital for us while we conquer your stupid ass. You're not gonna give it for you. You're not gonna get it."
Wow. I'm looking at the video of the Chinatown hospital that denies treatment to African people in Africa. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. How you think so, Demore? You think so? You think so? Yeah, it's crazy.
There are pockets everywhere that a Chinatown exists in, and within that area, it's all Chinese stores, it's all Chinese markets, and people from all cultures shop at these places because you can find all of these wonderful products and items and foods and all kinds of things at a very reasonable price, and also a really nice quality. So what I never expected was that Nigeria would have a Chinatown, but in fact, they do. Take a look at this.
They trying to get one. They trying to get one in Nigeria. I mean, trying to get one in Kenya. They already got one in Ghana. I know one is in Ghana. Trying to build one in Zimbabwe. Got one in South Africa. They don't have. Yes, they know the Negroes are weak, and they bootlicking. And most of them are ignorant. They believe they worship anybody that's not black and treat them like shit. Smile in your face, all Chinese man. And in Nigeria, and I try to tell people, they are the weakest niggas on the planet. The weakest. Talk about that. I just got them to tell me Kenyans are weak. You out your mind, you're the weakest niggas on the planet. Go ahead, go tomorrow.
Chinese live, eat, buy, sell, and have hospitals. Passing the front of Chinatown on a good day, I wondered what it was as the entrance looked different from the regular Nigerian buildings. So I asked and was told that it was a place for the Chinese, and so I decided to go on an adventure to Chinatown.
Is there also for only China people? Okay, like me now, we cannot use this hospital.
Wow, she was told she cannot use that hospital. It is only for Chinese in the middle of Nigeria, in Lagos. And she was okay with it. And the people of Lagos are okay with it.
According to the worker here, they treat only Chinese, and most of the doctors are Chinese.
Chinese are not building their police station here, even in Asaba. And they don't want you, they don't want their citizens to stay in the same cell with you. They are building, Chinese has police station here in Nigeria, building their own Chinese police
You
station.
got to be kidding me. They even have a police station in Nigeria, a Chinese police station, and a jail. Wow.
Look at how Africans have sold their soul to Jesus. You sold your energy to Jesus. You sold your common sense to Jesus. You sold your land to Jesus. That is why when you sell your land, a land here that was provided to you by your ancestor, in order to get a visa to travel to America, you still thank Jesus.
So as you can see, there is a massive compound.
I never knew about this, K. Williams. I've never heard of this. That there's a town in Nigeria, a Chinatown in Nigeria, that they even have a police station, a Chinese police station, a Chinese jail, a Chinese hospital, that if you're not Chinese, you're not going to get treated there. And the people of Nigeria are okay with it. And apparently the people of Lagos are okay with it, and they know that. Wow. I mean, I knew we were colonized, but I didn't know how deep this was. I didn't know how deep this was, to a point that they have a Chinatown where you cannot get treated if you're not Chinese in Africa, in Nigeria. Wow. And K. Williams says, Africa better wake up. The Chinese are taking over Africa. And he says, no other race a man will put up with this. This is a sign of pure weakness. And I agree with that, K. Williams, because how do we allow such things to happen? How do you allow somebody to come to your country, build a whole town in your country that you yourself are not allowed to go to in your own country? A Chinese police station in Nigeria, even a Chinese jail in Nigeria. Wow, I never knew the colonialism, the neo-colonialism was this deep, you know. I thought it was neo-colonialism of the systems, but it is even, man, I don't even know what to say. And he goes on to, and K. Williams say, Africa will never advance with tribalism. And Danny Harrison is shocked as I am. He's asking, a Chinese police station, what is this, New York? Now I would take that as an act of war and respond accordingly. But their president is Bola Tinubu, Danny Harrison. You don't expect Tinubu to do anything about this. And even without their president, the level of brainwashing, the level of white savior imagery that is in Africa is so deep. They love everybody that is not, they love everything that is not black. Everything that is not African is cherished. So if this was, let's say the people of Ghana had a Ghana town in Nigeria and they had hospitals for the people of Ghana alone in Nigeria, then the people of Nigeria would go up there and beat their ass up and they would lock down those hospitals. If it was the people, you saw that in South Africa with South Africans claiming that Nigerian people are the one taking their jobs, but you'll never hear that if it is any, they hate everything African. So trust you me, if this Chinatown was, maybe the people of Senegal had gone to Nigeria and started a Senegal town with their prisons and their hospitals, it would be war in Nigeria. But now, because of the white savior imagery, because of the the white supremacy, because of how we view them as mzungu. We call them the mzungus because of the mzungu in us, and how we think they are gods and everything. Nobody's gonna talk about this. Tinubu is not gonna do anything about it, nor with the people of Lagos. And it is sad. If you think about it, it is very sad, and it is a sign of weakness, as K. Williams is saying. A sign of weakness. Major weakness. And Danny Harrison says this also serves as to why we need to grow up as the people and build African infrastructure with African ingenuity and African money and resources. That way this doesn't ever become a problem. And I agree with you, Danny Harrison, because this right here is one of the reasons Africa is still poor yet rich in resources, but in reality the people are in poverty because of weakness like this, because of the white savior imagery, because of the how we hate everything African. The people of South Africa would rather kill Nigerians for going to Nigeria and leave the Chinese there. And let us head to other news. This one is already making me mad. I never knew until K. Williams mentioned it. I never knew such things were happening in Africa. A Chinatown with a Chinese police station and a Chinese jail in Nigeria. I mean, come on. Let us now head to Burkina Faso, where 5 people were killed in a private plane crash in eastern Burkina Faso. So a private aircraft with 7 people aboard crashed in a tree on Wednesday after failing to take off successfully in Burkina Faso's eastern region, killing 5 people and injuring 2. The plane was taking off from a local airport in the city of Diapiga en route to the city of Fadal and Guma when it ended up in a tree. The government news agency reported that the 2 people injured were rushed to a health facility, and investigation had begun as to what might have caused the accident. So Burkina Faso is one of the countries that is going through trailblazing a whole new revolution in Africa, together with the Sahel Alliance, and today they started the joint military force, which I think is the first step towards what Danny Harrison is talking about, Africans growing up as a people and building African infrastructure with African ingenuity, African money and resources. So I think it is a good step for the Sahel Alliance to start their own military to deal with their own with their all their wars. You know, right now if you go to war with one of the countries in the Sahel Alliance, then you've gone into war with the whole of it, because they have a joint military force. Let us now head to DRC as we almost come to the end of the updates, where at least 10 people were killed as rebels seized the town in Congo's Kivu region. A rebel group which is allegedly linked to neighboring Rwanda seized the town in Congo, that is in Congo's eastern region, in an attack that killed at least 10 people and displaced thousands. They say the area is called Nyanzare. So Nyanzare was seized by M23 rebels, and initial reports put the death toll at around 10 people, but the number is suspected to be higher than 10, and with houses burnt down and shops looted of their goods, and many people displaced and many others injured. It was not immediately clear when the rebel groups took control of the town, though M23 announced on their X social media platform, formerly Twitter, on Tuesday that Nyanzale was now under them. The March 23, the M23 controls about half of North Kivu's province, and there has been a whole war going on in Congo with the rebel groups fighting against each other. It is sponsored chaos going on in Congo that nobody is talking about. Not the puppet AU, not the puppet ECOWAS, not the puppet EAC, not the puppet IGAD, not the puppet UN, nobody is talking about the whole crisis, humanitarian crisis that is going on in Congo right now, with every day people are being killed, and there are more than 120 armed groups that all are seeking a share in the region's gold. They are not even seeking a share. They are just causing chaos so that the people sponsoring the chaos can get a share in the region's gold and other resources. The result of this is one of the world's largest humanitarian crises, with about 7 million people being displaced, And I can't even mention, I can't even, I've been reporting on deaths every day. Today it was 10 people. Tomorrow when I come here, I'm going to report on more deaths in Congo. That one, you can bet on it. And nobody is talking about this, not even the African Union. What I've been hearing is South Africa going to the ICJ, the International Criminal Justice Court, to sue Russia for attacking Ukraine, but they are not talking about Congo. Nobody's talking about what is happening in DRC, not even the African leaders themselves, not even the African puppets. Nobody's talking about what is happening there. And so today, 10 people died. Trust me, tomorrow more will die. And this is going to continue as long as we keep a blind eye on the war that is going on in Congo, the humanitarian crisis happening there. And lastly, Haiti's leader is still locked out of his country. After leaving Kenya, he was in Kenya. So Haiti's prime minister, his name is Ariel Henry, was in Kenya to seek Kenya's intervention. So he wanted Kenya to help him fight the gangs in his country in a UN-backed mission. Haitian Prime Minister is struggling to stay in power as he tries to return home, where gang attacks have shattered the country's main international airport and freed more than 4,000 inmates in recent days. As of midday Wednesday, Henry remained in Puerto Rico, where he landed the day before after he was barred from landing in neighboring Dominican Republic because officials there closed the airspace to flights to and from Haiti. Locked out of his country now, Henry appears to face doesn't know what is going on. Calls of him to resign are now happening all over. So the 74-year-old Ariel Henry, who's depending on the Kenyan troops, not troops really, the Kenyan police and the Benin police, to go to Haiti and help restore peace and order, is now cannot even go back to the country himself. But he apparently wants the Kenyan police to go to Haiti, where he himself cannot even be able to land. And the government of Kenya and the government of Benin sat down and saw it fit to send the police there. And so they'll be going there in a few, to a country that even the president himself cannot land into. Sending our police officer to slaughterhouses, they're gonna get killed there. That's for sure. And Danny, and that is all I had today on the Black Hot Fire News Update. You are now up to date on what was happening in each and every African country, from Kenya to Ghana to Burkina Faso to Senegal and lastly on Haiti, where the Prime Minister is yet to land. He cannot land in his country, but he wants the Kenyan police to go there. So Danny Harrison says, no one is going to fall out of the sky and save you. You got to save yourself. I can't even add anything to that, Danny Harrison. I'm just going to repeat your comment again. No one is going to fall out of the sky and save you, African people. You've got to save yourself. And Kay Williams finishes with, Africa needs more young people like you and Joby who know what is going on in the real world. And that is what has been happening throughout Africa today, on a night where the government of Kenya spent less than 10% of its budget on development, with the rest being spent on recurrent expenditure and travels, on a night where Ghana's Deputy Finance Minister John Kuma died in Germany, on a night where at least 8,500 migrants died on land and sea routes. That is according to a report that they died last year alone, most of them African. It is also on a night where Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have formed a joint force to fight jihadist insurgency in the West African Sahel region. It is also a night where 5 people have been killed in a plane crash in eastern Burkina Faso. And lastly, a night where at least 10 people were killed as rebels seized a town in Congo's conflict-hit eastern region of the North Kivu, reportedly by the M23. The M23 was the one that killed the 10 people today. You're now up to date on what has been happening throughout Africa. Make sure to join me tomorrow at 7 to 7:30 as we'll be checking on what will be happening from now till tomorrow. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, ladies. and gentlemen.